Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Walford, University of Delaware, and we're here today to talk about Snapit and Appit. We're going to focus mostly on mobile phone photography. And so we're trying out a new technology here because I wanted to be able to share my screen on my mobile device. And so we're using Zoom today, and so this is feeling a little different than your normal Wednesday webinars with Mid-Atlantic Women in Ag. This is why. So we do want to thank our sponsors. Mid-Atlantic Women in Agriculture is a collaborative group of women from all of these great places. Farm Credit sponsors us, but we're coming from the Northeast Risk Management and all of the great cooperative extension regional areas. And I'm happy to be in my second year of doing technology-based webinars mostly. Normally they're live. We schedule these out about a year ahead of time, and every once in a while there's a conflict, and our Wednesday was a conflict for me at the last minute, so I'm very sorry to have to pre-record this. It's the day before on Tuesday. Believe it or not, I already did this once and the sound didn't work, so I'm doing it again. Coming up, we have CSA operators are going to be talking about. We're moving away from social media now and technology and moving into news about your business. So we just wanted to say hello to everybody and thank them. I'm an amateur photographer, but a very ardent one. I used to sell photography equipment, taken some college courses. This is my beast, I call it. It's a Nikon D7100 with a 18 to 300 lens and a power battery behind it. This is normally what I shoot with when I'm doing official work. We're looking at about $3,500 here. And I will tell you, it's not always convenient. It's heavy, it's bulky. If I'm moving around or getting on the ground, I have concerns about it getting dirty. And like most people, I just don't have it with me all the time. But the one thing I do have with me all the time is my cell phone and also my iPad, which my cell phone and iPad are connected. So I love this, and I use it. But increasingly, I've gone to the iPhone. This is an example. Last year, my husband and I went on a 3-hour tour, no pun intended, but it was from 4 to 7, so I sound like Gilligan's Island, on the Kalmar Nickel, which is the ship on the right-hand side. It's a reproduction or replica of a 16th century ship. As we were leaving our tour and I was walking back to the parking lot, the Cape May ferry was coming into dock, and I love the juxtaposition of the old and new. And I picked up my Nikon. This is a Nikon shot, and took it, and I was happy with it. And sort of as a last minute, I said to my husband, "Oh, hold my camera. I want to take a cell phone picture so I could tweet it." Now I could have tweeted. I don't have my camera connected to Wi-Fi, so it means going home, taking the SD card out, loading it, putting it in the computer, getting on the internet, blah, blah, blah. It's so much easier to use with the phone. So this is the phone shot. Now, this is looking at the Nikon D7100 here. The next shot will be from what I had back then, which was an iPhone 5. And there's that shot. So not only does it has a different shape and renders a different aspect ratio, it also is a completely different image, and one I felt was superior to the Nikon. Now, to be honest, I could have gone back with a Nikon and had more manipulability to it with it because I shoot in JPEG plus Camera Raw, and when you shoot in Camera Raw, you can do all kinds of cool things in Photoshop without destroying the original image. But I'm increasingly now taking pictures with my Nikon, emailing them to myself or using an adapter and uploading them on my iPad so I can edit in Snapseed. This is unedited from the iPhone 5. So when I got it home, I just loved it. And I just think it rendered the colors better on the sails. Some deeper looking, it brightened the scene up, but this was untouched. And I did make some edits to it using Snapseed, using two features on Snapseed, which is called HDR, which I think stands for High Dynamic Range. And it sort of just takes a lot of it. Well, I don't even know how it works exactly, to be honest with you. And this is what I got when I did the HDR effect with about 30% intensity and a little bit of saturation. So I pumped up the color, and it just made that evening sky that you see here just a little more intense, a little more painting looking like. So a painting like. Both of these images have been fussed over quite a bit. I've gotten some recognition for taking these, but it was just amazing that I was able to get this from an iPhone. So don't let people intimidate you that you don't have a $3,500 camera, because some of my best photos have come from an iPhone. I also want to make very clear, I'm not one of these iPhone people that bashes Androids. They make a fine product. To me, it's the difference between whether driving a BMW or Mercedes. I wouldn't turn down either one. So it's the same with people who are Android go, oh, Apple's way overrated. And people when Apple go, oh, you're copying up. I just don't get into all of that. I also don't get into megapixels. This is a 25 megapixel image, and this is a 12 or an 8 or whatever iPhones were at the time, I forget. That makes no difference. The only difference it makes is when you're going to blow something up to hang in Times Square, or a big, huge mural, or you're really going to be doing some large printing. But for normal people, and definitely for things you're putting on the web, actually the bigger size megapixels can be a real pain in the neck. So I do love my iPhone. I love smartphone photography. A couple things you want to know. Most of you, I hope, know about the rule of thirds. That just basically means is you want to use, if you divided your screen into grids with 2 lines going across and 2 lines going down, the places where they intersect should be where your images are. If you're taking pictures of your portraits of your family or portraits of your pets, you don't want to be taking dead center shots. I also want to recommend for anything that I do, I take portrait and landscape, vertical and horizontal, whatever you want to call it. Don't take one picture. If you look at an artist like Annie Leibovitz, who's a photographer for Vanity Fair and used to be a photographer for Rolling Stone, guarantee you she's taking 300 shots, even when they're back in the film days, 300 shots to get that one great cover. So you need to take a lot of photographs to get that special one. You need to also look at the perspective. This are 2 examples of the color wheel. When you can, be mindful of the opposite ranges of your colors. So when I was shooting these sails on a sailboat, this was not the Kalmar nickel, this was up in Maine. The orange sails against the blue sky are representative of opposites of the color wheel. So that is one reason why this image works. A second reason why it works is it is a perspective of looking down, from being down and looking up. The flowers on the right, this is a squash garden that was growing in the Master Gardener demonstration garden. And just by chance, I didn't put them there. The orange, dark orange marigolds were there. And if you look on the color wheel, that gives that a pop. It's also looking down at something as opposed to just always having something in front of you and taking the picture. I teach photography to 4-Hers. The thing I tell them to is get down, get up, lay down, sit up, stand up, get up on a ladder, look down, turn your camera left, turn your camera right. Get the image from all different kinds of perspectives. Also take the pictures at different times of the day. Probably the most unflattering light, or the worst light, is at 12 o'clock noon. And the only other thing I wanted to show you is right here. If you have a DSLR, you will see this little spot right here. I'm circling around it. That is a dust spot that enters the lens when you're taking your lens on and off without turning your camera off. So if you have a DSLR, turn your camera off before you switch your lenses. prior to getting my zoom, I was switching out my 18 to 55 and my 55 to 200 constantly. And when I'm doing that, I'm letting dust come in. And this is not easy to clean. Most new DSLRs have an auto cleaner on them, but that didn't even work for me. I had to go and pay about $65, $75 to have the sensors cleaned. So that's what it costs. And you might want to do that anyway once a year just to make sure everything's clean. But little dust spots will register as big ugly blobs on your photographs. Now, you don't have that problem with smartphones. That's another reason I like smartphones. Pay attention to the color wheel. Also, try to avoid what I call nice photos. I watch HGTV. I don't know if you guys do, but people come in, they're looking at houses and looking at properties. And everybody says, oh, that's nice. Oh, isn't that living? Oh, isn't this nice? Isn't this a nice photo? A nice sunset, a nice sunrise, a nice beach scene. Try to get away from nice because nice is boring. You want to try and, although there's nothing technically wrong with this picture, there's your horizon going straight across the middle of the page. It does divide into thirds this way, and this isn't quite center, but by dividing in thirds, I mean if you divide it here, and you divide it here, and then you divide it along this parameter, and then this parameter. That would be your thirds. So if you're looking at a person, you might want to have their eyes right where those lines intersect. So I took this picture from work, across the street from where I work. It's a pivot irrigation tower, and I wanted to do something different with it. And I wanted to make it look old. I like making pictures look like they came from maybe the 1920s or 30s or even earlier, like not quite a daguerreotype, which is like the Civil War tintypes and things like that. But you can do a lot of things. Kids today, younger people, this is why Instagram has taken off. Originally, Instagram was seen as a tool for filters. It's now become a really popular photograph sharing platform. But one of the things they like to do is make pictures look like they were taken in the 60s and 50s when those color photographs, I grew up in that era, and I look at the color photographs that my parents took of me, and they're starting to fade and look a little haggard looking. There's some light leaks. The Polaroids, of course. I remember the swinger cameras and the Polaroids that would shoot out. They like replicating that look. I could care less. I don't want to go back to those era, but I do like the old. So this picture here is this picture, and I cropped it, and then I took it into Snapseed, which is my go-to app for editing pictures, and we'll show you how I did that, or something very similar to that. This is just another irrigation tower. So I have a little bit of a fixation on irrigation towers, but there's another one. You can see it's a little bit green. It's not entirely black and white and sepia tone, but you can see I played around with it. This has what's called a grunge technique. You can see spots and dings and dangs, and that's done with vignette with filters that are known as vintage or Retrolux, and then you can also add in grunge, which makes it look grungy, makes it look dirty. And then there's all kinds of frame apps, and this one is of showing some bleed out of some of them, what would have been like silver emulsion bleeding out into the frame. Some do's and don'ts real quick, because I want to get into the app demonstration. If you have a DSLR, and even some of the point and shoots allow you to shoot in camera raw or raw plus JPEG, and that's usually what I do. So if real quick I want to send something out, I can send it in JPEG. Pretty much you can email that to anybody and anybody can open it. Raw, you have to have a special program like Photoshop in order to work with but it gives you a lot more latitude and all your professional photographers, wedding photographers, National Geo photographers, they're going to shoot in RAW. If you're selling to a magazine and you tell them you have it in RAW, they'll love you for it. So I usually shoot camera RAW plus JPEG, takes up more room, but I have a big card, so it's okay. copy your files from your SD card. When you take your SD card out of your camera and put it into your computer, copy your files by events. If you have 3 events on your SD card, break it up. So I might have Joan's wedding, and I might have 4-H pumpkin contest, and I might have university weed science event, and I will create 3 folders on my desktop. I will move the corresponding pictures over to the folder. Then I take my SD card out. The next thing I do is I duplicate the folders I just created. Why do I do that? I keep a set of original folders in pristine condition. I move them off. They're on an external hard drive. They are what I call sacred. I don't edit them. I don't touch them. I don't change the size of them. I keep them raw. So I have this enormous photo library. And if you're taking a lot of pictures, at least make 1 copy of them. I make 2. Again, I make 1 for safekeeping. The second one is what I edit off of. I put my SD card back into my camera and I remove the pictures from the camera. Don't remove them from the computer. I'm not sure exactly what the technology or the reasons why that SD cards, if images should be added and or erased from the camera. Or you can reformat the camera. I use the same SD card over and over again. Some people don't do that. It's personal choice. For my cell phones, I upload, and then I take my photos and I upload them to Flickr. I have a pro account, but the free account doesn't give you any more storage, just takes away ads. So the free account will give you 1 terabyte of storage. It's a lot of photographs. And you upload them, they'll upload them at the original resolution. So like if you upload pictures to Facebook, they compress them. If you upload them to Google Photos, they'll compress them unless you pay. You can pay to have it not compressed. So I have online backup, particularly for my photos on my smartphone. I take pictures with my phone. They automatically get uploaded to Facebook. They're private, but they get uploaded to Facebook. They get uploaded to Google Photos, which is their cloud service, and they get uploaded to Flickr. So I have 3 backup plans in place. I don't suggest that you have to have 3 because it needs to use data when it's backing up. So unless you have wireless access, you don't want to be using up your cellular data plan to be transferring all these pictures to the cloud. It does take up some, so you have to bear that in mind. And I rarely, if ever use Flash on my cell phone. If I need to lighten something, I will lighten it in processing. The Flash just makes the pictures look horrible, in my opinion. So I like to use natural light. If I am taking dark photographs, and I'll show you how you can do that, you can touch the parameters as you're composing the picture on your smartphone. You can touch the screen, and it will adjust the light according to what you touch. Big example of this would be someone who's giving a PowerPoint presentation. I've taken a lot of those, not terribly exciting photographs, but I have to do it occasionally. And so you have the person who's presenting all dark because the PowerPoint is what's the camera is reading as for light. And so that's very bright, and this person is dark off to the left or the right. But if you can go over and you can touch the person, the camera will go, oh, that's who you want to focus on. Okay. And then it will adjust. But if you mess that up, you can fix it in post-processing. I rarely ever use autocorrect, and I don't zoom with my camera. I will zoom with video, but I don't zoom with my camera, and that's when you're taking, like I'm going to do right now, I take my fingers and I spread them apart, and you're at a concert and the person's on stage and they're 80 feet away from you. So what do? You go like this, take the picture. You're much better off to leave it the way it is by default and crop it after the fact. You'll get a better close-up than you will if you zoom it out, because your camera, especially a cell phone camera, doesn't have the optical zooms that DSLRs have. They're using digital zooms, and the minute you zoom out, you're ruining the quality. Much better if you crop it after the fact, and it looks like you were right in the front row of the of the concert. We're going to go right now to some app demonstrations, but this is how to get a hold of me. This is going to be recorded so you can go back and play this back, but follow me on Instagram, see what I do there. I just created recently a photo blog on WordPress, so if you're into photography as a hobby, I strongly urge you to create a free WordPress, and you can create a photo blog. It's just a way of having your work, your portfolio, so to speak. All right, so with that, we're working on a new technology here. So I have an Apple iPad, which I'm going to pretend is a phone, and essentially except for the talking part, this is identical to what an iPhone would be. Photos are kept in Photos. I think Android, it's called a gallery, but you all know how all that works. And for most part, they're going to be pretty much the same. And I have a whole mess of photo apps here. These are just some of them that I put in this little grouping. And the one that I like the most is Snapseed, which is this little guy right here. You want to do that. It's a Google product, but it's available for Apple phones and iPads and for Androids, and I'm not sure about Windows phones, but Google, it makes it free, completely free. At 99% of the time, this is where I go. Occasionally, I will use something like Photo Editor, which is this little multicolored sunflower-looking thing, or any kind of, if you go into your Google Play or Google Store, your Apple Store, and type in photo apps, anything by Avery, it's an inexpensive or free photo editor that you can use. And mostly I use that for red eye, because the one thing Snapseed does not have is a red eye correction. And they just forgot to do it. So I will use something, run-of-the-mill like that. It's pretty much this particular app. I'll just click on it. I'll just click on a picture. When it comes up, you'll see this. If you go on Flickr, Flickr has the same thing. You have where you can put stickers and special effects, and you can lighten and darken and sharpen and whiten. And it has some very basic things, and it has the red eye. But I don't use, if you see the same configuration, again, it's pretty much done by Avery. Yeah, it's powered by Avery. You can see it at the bottom. Definitely have one of those. It's a good basic one to use, but I only pretty much use this for red eye. I'm going to stop and get out of that. And we'll still go, and I want to show you Waterlog. It may not be available to Android, but what Waterlog is turns certain photos, depends on your photo, into beautiful watercolors, and you can get some beautiful rendition. So if you're in the produce, flower, garden, for those of you who have that type of business, or you're around master gardeners, you can take pictures outside of your plants and hit that button and render some amazing watercolor look like original watercolor. So you can print them out, put them in a frame, and you're going to get, you could have them as gifts. You could sell them. It's just another way of selling something that's growing on your farm or your operation. Really cool. About $2.99. It was originally only for iOS. It may be available now for Android. I'm not certain. Oops. Color Splash. There's a whole mess of these out there. What that will do is if you have a picture, say, of a baby, 6-month-old baby, especially the little girls, you know how the mothers put the little bands on their heads with a little flower, a little barrette. You can make the whole picture black and white, but you can leave the color just in the pink band. And you'll see those around a lot. So it's a way of making everything black and white, like you see here. The hand is black and white, but the apple stays color. So it's particularly, you'll see it, I see it a lot with bridal shots, the black and white picture of the bride, but they color in the bouquet. things like that. This is special. We won't have time to go into all those today, but I just wanted to show you what they are. And there's a new one. I was using Facetune. Facetune is an app that you can use. Believe it or not, you can take 10 pounds off your face. You can get rid of blemishes. A lot of these now have healing brushes or blemishes. But I like Facetune because you could morph. You could straighten a crooked nose. You could get rid of a double chin. You can push your cheekbones up higher. Really cool. But now, I just found this out yesterday, just downloaded it yesterday, Photoshop Fix. And we'll go into that. That's an amazing app, and it's free. It does require an Adobe ID. This is used by professional photographers. They'll do some preliminary work on their pads or tablets, then they'll send it off to Photoshop for more work. But you don't have to do that. It's free. It's amazing. And then the last one I wanted to show you was, if we have time, Tangled FX. So let's go back to Snapseed. And I'm going to open from device. Actually, I'm going to close it. So I'll show you how the home screen works. So you click on Snapseed, and it will ask you to open a photo, and you want to take it live, camera shot, or from your device, or I can open up what I last worked on. I'm going to open from device. And I'm going to take a picture, and I will do, let's get a farm shot here. This is what I was working on. I already cropped it. Okay, I'll make it out of that, darn it. Open from device. Screenshots. Snap it. Okay. I've already done some editing here. Okay. When I did this the first time, I edited it, and let me see if I can go back. Okay, here, let me go to my, so this is where if you wreck something up, you have your options. So I'm going to go into my Google Photos. I have an archive. You're going to see my life history here. I'm going to search for farm. A farm. I should spell it right. It would help, wouldn't it? Okay. It's not going to cooperate with me. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let me go back to photography. It's going to Snapseed. And we'll just work with this one right now. This has been edited though, so let me see if I can go into my moments. Okay. Hopefully this, oh, it's still the same one. Okay. So we'll start with something else. I want to get something that hasn't been played with so you can see how this works. So best laid plans. Here we go. That's what I wanted. There we go. All right, so here's the original photograph. So I've opened this, and this was of a farm. I took it from my car, from the road. You see the road. So this is a nice picture. I also see a glaring spot, a dust spot. So we're going to take care of that. So this is Snapseed. I've opened it up. So now you have some little orientation at the bottom right. There's a white circle with a pencil, and that's your edit button. You're going to visit that constantly. So the first thing I want to do here is, this is my menu, and the things we're going to concentrate today are tune in, tune image, selective, and crop. We may go into, we'll do a little healing and a little vignette, but I'm going to go right now to crop because I want to get rid of the road. And so what I would do here is I could freely crop. I could crop just that if I wanted. That's what free cropping is, or free aspect ratio. I could just go for the barn. That's fine, but if you've got a set frame at home, or you've been required to do something that needs to be an 8x10 or 5x7, then you want to go into the format your aspect ratio. iPhones will shoot at 3:2. DSLRs will often do 4:3 or 5:4. This is what I shot it at, 3:2. And so if I crop this though, and if I want to get all of the road out, I can't alter this ratio. And so therefore, if I get rid of the road, you'll see I've lost the barn. And that would be true if I used a different, I wouldn't be able to keep the scene I want. So I want to go back to, I just wanted to show you that when you click one of these, it locks it in. But I'm going to go back to free because I have a lot of money and I can get it custom framed. And also I might be using this as a web banner. So I want to be able to bring this and scooch this up and take it all the way out to the edge and then maybe bring the sky down. So it's more of a banner look. And I like that. So I'm going to click the check mark at the bottom right. And now I've saved it. I can always undo it if I wanted to at this point. But I'm going to leave this the way it is. Now I'm going to hit the edit button again at the bottom. And I'm going to show you what some of these things do. Now, tune image is the way Snapseed works is you're given options that go up and down and left and right. And different options will have more than others. Tune image has a lot. So I'm placing my finger in the center of the picture, and I'm going to go up, and I'm moving, just sliding my finger up and down the screen. And so you'll see I have brightness, ambiance, contrast, saturation, shadows, highlights, and warmth. And you can do a lot with these. For instance, warmth, you can pull in a lot, so you can make it look more like it was 8 o'clock at night instead of 4 o'clock, which it was. But I might want a little bit of warmth, and it gives you a scale that you can constantly tweak. So a little bit is fine. I'm okay with that. I want to go back up and down again and say, well, brightness looks okay to me. But you want to maybe practice with a photograph and find what these things do. They may look the same, but they're subtly different. Saturation is going to pull your colors. That's a little too much. And often you'll see, for very artistic reasons, very desaturated. So just a touch, a hint of color. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it at 0, which would be the default. Oh, okay, it's 1. All right, I'm going to toke down that warmth just a little bit. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to hit OK. Now, Snapseed up at the top right-hand corner has told me I've made 2 procedures so far on this image. So I want to say, well, what else can I do? I'm going to click it again. And I want to introduce you to HDRscape. Now, one thing to remember is, if you remember anything else, add vignette and your frames last. So vignettes should always be added second to the last if you add a vignette at all. And frames should be the final thing that you do to your image. I want to know what some of these bottom ones are. And so this is called HDRscape, and this is one I use a lot. So there you go. look at the difference. Now, I want to show you the before and after. So the top right, you'll see a little square with dots and a line through it. That's your toggle to show you the original and the HDR. And usually it will suggest a level, which is 50 in this case, but you can tweak that. So it looks a little unrealistic to me. I might want to tack it down to maybe 30%. Still makes it pop. It's a little bit more of a vividness. What HDR does, high density, high dynamic range, is it pulls ambiance and saturation and drama all together. So here we go. We've got this pretty cool scene. I kind of like that. I don't mind the other road because it has I have green in the foreground, so I like that. It's hitting the color wheel because of the red and the green and the blue. But I've got this spot up at the top. I don't know if you can tell it here, but right above the grain silos, all the way up, there's a spot, and that's because I had a dusty lens. I want to fix that. So I'm going to go back to my menu, and I'm going to hit the healing brush. And this would work for a person. This would get rid of age spots, scars, pimples, freckles, anything, moles, anything like that. And rather than just tap it, I'm going to swipe it. It will average where you've touched and pull from that average and just replace it. So I don't like to just hit tap because you'll get these little circular looking doodads, and I don't like that. There's a tiny little flaw up here. I'm just going to go like that. Oh, but I see that messed up. It pulled from the cloud. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to try it again. All right. I still see it pulled a cloud through, so I'm going to leave it go. You can do the best you can with it. So there you go. The image has been pumped up a little bit with color. It's been cropped. We've added HDR, and I'm going to save it. I want to see what else I could do with it. What does drama do? Drama will usually pump up the contrast and take away some desaturation, but sometimes it's a cool effect. So let's see what drama does. So it did tone down the greens, and it's not a bad photo. The sky's looking a little funky too, and I don't know if that was because I had a dirty lens or what the deal was there, but it's got these little oceanic, kind of like a grunge effect almost. It's not bad. It's at 90. It's a pretty high level. I could take it down. So this is doing on top of the HDR. It's still really desaturating. I'm not sure I like that. So I'm going to hit the X on the left and just say, nah, I'm second thoughts. And this is what's fun, at least for me, to go in and play around and say, I don't know, I think I like that one better. So you can play around with it. Grunge will add grunge. There's all kinds of looky. And the problem with the grunge is there's no, I'm sliding it, but I can't like say, I wouldn't mind some of that, but texture strength. Oh, there you go. So maybe I don't want it. I like that, but maybe not so much. I still don't like it, but at least not in a color photograph. But I just wanted to show you what you get with some of this here. And then there's different styles, and you can see the shuffle, and then there's texture. You can make it look like it was printed on stone. There's some with some bullet holes in it. There's like a crackly texture. And when you see an option with an X, you can see over number 3, there's an X with arrows. That means there's a toggle within that style range. This looks like this maybe was printed on leather or something like that. Let me see if I could tone that down. So now I'm going up and down with my finger as opposed to going left and right, which is going to scale a specific feature. So texture strength, I'm going to take texture strength down. But you know what? I wanted to show you what it did, but it's not the look I'm after, so I'm going to say no to that. So I'm back to where I last was. Let's check out, I want to go with black and white. check that out, see what I can do here. So you have some presets. You can go contrast, bright, dark. Cool, I kind of like that. Film, so it gives you that grainy feeling. Darkened sky, okay, very ominous. I don't like that. And you can tell it turns the red into white. So it was a red barn. So you've lost that detail between those two. So I don't really like the darkened sky. I like the contrast. I like the dark. I wish there was something in between. Well, by gosh, you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit dark and hit save. And then I'm going to go over to brightness, and I'm just going to pull it up just a little bit more than what it was. So I've got that darkness edge that in the preset, but I've just lightened it a little bit. And to each his own, everybody's going to be different here. So I'm going to save that. And now I want to try to make this look old. So I want to see what vintage has to offer. So here's vintage. Now what vintage does is it adds a little bit of the vignette to the sides. It's darkened the edges. Just take a look at the grain elevator, for instance, and you will see not only does it have like a purpley cast, but it has darkened it. And so I'm going to, I don't like that though, so I'm going to go to a different style. Let's try 2. Now that's more like it. I kind of like that. Can I do anything with it? Vignette strength, I can make that more or less. That's okay, I don't really want to do that. Saturation doesn't really do anything, and on a black and white it wouldn't. I'm going to leave that go. That's okay, I'm going to accept that. And now I'm going to go back to my menu, but I want it to look sepia tone. So I'm going to go back to Tune Image, and I'm going to go into Warmth, and I'm going to warm that baby up a little bit, like that. That's what I'm after. That's kind of the look I wanted. So I'm going to say okay, and go back to my menu. Retro Luxe is very similar to vintage, but it adds some speckles and spots. This is one, and you can shuffle through different. Well, that one wasn't too bad. That's not too bad. See, it's got a bunch. People are like, why would you want to add dirt and spots? Well, if you're trying to affect that this is an old image, you could do that. So this one has a lot of brightness in the middle. I don't know that I want that. That's kind of cool. That's combining a little bit of grunge. Definitely it looks like it might have been left in a kitchen or something like that, maybe hung up on a wall, years of family cooking and pipe smoking or something. So you can affect all these kinds of things. So I'll say, okay, I think I'll do that. But maybe can I tone that down at all? And so yes, I could style strength. I could weaken it just a little. I kind of like the way it was, so I'll leave it like that and hit enter. So now I've got this. Okay, it's what I want. Next, I'm going to do my frame. So what you want to do is play around with all of these different options and see what they can do. So then I'm going to hit frames, and so it defaults to the white frame. But you have 23 different options. You have half are white, half are black. The white ones are going to go from just progressively from square to rounded edges. Then you get into some rounded edges with some smudges. Again, look at number 4 at the bottom. You'll see it toggles. There's a toggle option there. So within that style set, there's a couple different options. And you get, as you get going, that one doesn't. That's just what it is. Kind of cool looking. 6 has options. Let's see what they are. So about 3, 3 that I could spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, kind of like that. And that has toggle options. I wanted to show you, I won't go through all of them, but the black frames do the same thing. The black frames are going to be more reminiscent of a daguerreotype or a tintype. photo, because Snapseed offers a gray platform or a blotter. The black's not showing up really well, but there may be reasons you want a black frame, and it's just as nice, particularly if you had a white matting around that. That would look really cool. But it doesn't render well, at least with this gray background. So I'm going to go back to this, and I kind of like the fact that there was originally an edge around it, and then it kind of got mottled. So I'm going to go with that, save it, and then I'm going to hit the plus, and at that point I'm done with that image. That could be printed out, fairly large size, and still render good quality on some good paper. This would have to be custom framed because it's different. It's free flowing aspect ratio on it. But at this point, and this is what I did last time when I practiced this and my sound didn't record, I could save a copy or I could export it permanently. And if I export it to my camera roll, it's done. I can't go back and undo any of this. Or I can save a copy. If I save a copy, why not? I still have my original image in color that I took without any feature. So I like to have that option, so I save it. And at this point, it goes into my, there it is in my camera roll right there. So that's Snapseed in a heartbeat. I did want to show you one other thing with Snapseed is we'll do. I just wanted to show you this picture of my family. There's me behind my brother and my nephew. This is probably, I think I've edited this. This is what happens when you HDR people. They look like that. They look like comic book characters. So people don't get HDR'd very well. Landscapes do. This is a picture of a horse I took with a little bit of an HDR. And here I cropped it for Instagram and put a frame on it with a little bit of a shadowed edge. So you can do some cool things. Here's the original scene I took. Oh yeah. This is an original scene I took in Milford. The fog was already there, kind of green. The greens were just emerging. I tried to do something a little bit more. I tried to play up that fog, so I lost detail in the water, but it kind of gave everything looked a little dreamy. Here it was. Well, that might have been the original. Actually, yeah, I take that back. That's the original. That was HDR'd. It's going to zoom in. That was after the HDR. I tried the sort of a dreamy effect, and then this was with a little bit. You can see with a little bit of softening around the edges, and you can do that with soft focus too. So I'll show you that. We'll go back, but I want to go back to Snapseed. Oops. Open a new photograph. And we'll go to this little boy by a pool. Now this was taken with my Nikon, and it averaged the light, so it pulled light from the reflective pool. And so the little boy is dark, he's in silhouette. So what I want to do is lighten him up. I don't necessarily want to lighten the rest of the photograph. So you have some options here. And one that you can do is I can go into what's called vignette. And when you have vignette, you will have a parameter that you can move. So I want to maybe center that on him. You can pinch your fingers together to make the circle smaller or bigger. So I want the focus on him. And you can You have two toggle options up and down, outer brightness and inner brightness. So your inner brightness right now is dark. I want to maybe, oh, okay, the right one. Inner brightness. And I want to do the inner brightness. So I'm brightening the boy up, but leaving everything outside that circle the way it was. That's one way you can do it. And then by the same token, you can darken the outside or lighten it if you want like a more of a heavenly look. A lot of times used with baby photographs or bridal photographs. You know, both are okay. That's not actually that bad. So that's one way of lightening the picture. Another way would be just to tune the image. You could try auto adjust. That's what auto adjust did. Don't think too much of that. So when I get it off, you can go to tune image and just toggle brightness. That's going to brighten everything. You can see the child now. The pool's a little overexposed, but that's okay. It might be the look you want. Some people go for that kind of bright light. Again, there's no right or wrong here. But what I wanted to show you was you have something called selective. And what selective is, this is ideal for people who have pictures where guys wearing cowboy hats. And so the brim is shadowing their eyes. You can go in and add something. So you click the little add and touch the picture. And a B will come up. And you can change that. I can now change the saturation, the contrast, or the brightness for a specific area on the photograph. And I can move that to, if it was a person back here, I could do that. I could move it to any place I want. If I wanted to do just his eyes, I would do just his eyes. And then with your fingers pinched, pinch in and pinch out, and it will give you the range. So everything that's red is what's going to be affected. Well, I don't want the background. I don't want his forehead. I just want his eyes. So I'm going to just squeeze that until I get to the area that I want. Then I, with going left to right across the screen, brighten up those eyes. You can do another one. Oh, and wait, I didn't check this. So you got to check the, because you always want people's eyes to be bright. But you know, I kind of would like to maybe just do his whole head. I'm not really certain about anything else. I'm going to leave that there. I have to hit add, plus, and take a look at what you'll be. This is great if you've taken a picture of somebody and the sun's behind them and they come home and you look at the pictures and you can't even see their faces because it's all dark. You can, I'm going to go ahead and brighten that up just a little. And then hit OK. So it's brightened it up without brightening up everything. Now I can go back to the main image and do the whole thing and maybe just bring it up just a little bit. So I just wanted to show you that those tools are available. They're pretty nice. And with that, we'll get out of that. So that's Snapseed in a nutshell. Pretty cool, a lot of fun to play with. So you should enjoy that. The other, all right, now we want to get out. So get rid of Snapseed. The other one I wanted to show you, so back to my home screen, is Waterlog. Now Waterlog will turn, oh, before I do Waterlog, let me show you Photoshop Fix because this is really cool. And I'm not an expert in it yet, I just downloaded it yesterday. All right, I downloaded this picture. I'm a Beatle fan. This is a picture of George Harrison, a very famous picture taken of him. And so just imagine, like me, I could stand to lose, a few pounds. So maybe I'd like to do some things with this picture. So you can, obviously you can lighten and darken it. I want to actually go back. Okay. This would be your original template. If you bring up a picture of yourself or a family member, you would get this picture. And you have a healing brush. So you may see here, there's a little tiny dot right where his, to the left of his mustache. I'm going to come in there and just kind of get rid of that so you can get rid of spots. There's one there. So you can do that, which is nice. And all of the apps have a healing brush on them. But I'm done with that. And I want to hit the liquefy. It's the third one from the left. And I want to click liquefy, because I just think this is so neat. When you take pictures, I've always taken pictures. There's always somebody, your Aunt Edna and your Uncle Joe and your daughter and your son are in a family group, and there's Grandpa Frank, and he's not smiling. Now, George Harrison's really not smiling in this picture, but I want him to smile. This is just amazing. So you hit face, which is off to the right, and it puts points on his cheekbones, his mouth, his chin, and his eyes. So I'm going to touch his mouth, and immediately comes up options. I think I want to make George smile, so I'm going to hit smile, and the scale comes up. Now pay attention to his mouth, and I'm going to tack it up, and I'm going to tack it down. Is that amazing or what? And that was normal. And now I'm going to make him mope a little bit. I just think, and it doesn't look fake. I think it looks pretty darn, and when you're doing this to somebody, you don't want to overdo it, but a little tweak can mean a lot. So I think that's interesting. I can also make him pout. Let's see, face. Give him a little nervous tick, right? So I can do all that kind of stuff. What a lot of photographers do, what a lot of models on covers of magazines have done, is they have their eyes done. And so this is instant plastic surgery. You're going to go back to face and hit the eyes. And you can make the eyes bigger. So watch the size of his eyes. I can go nuts, like that lady that made those paintings with the big eyes. But, if you do that, but a little bit bigger makes people, they've found in advertising, makes people respond to the photo better. So I can make his eyes just a little bit bigger than they are. I can change the width of his eyes, apparently. And the height. So now he's really looking like he's staring. So it's getting, to me, I would know the difference if I saw that photograph, but I'm just showing you some of the cool things you can do. Now let's just say, for example, that we're gonna put a few pounds on George. Okay. So this is how people are warping, is when you tuck somebody's. You want to use a big brush when you warp, but you can go in and say, I want to tuck my chin in. My cheekbones are too fat. I like to. And you can really overdo it, and you see people who want to lose 50 pounds instantly. You're not going to lose 50 pounds, but you'll see, you go on Photoshop and you'll see people who, they take very obese people and make them into models. So you can change the whole contour. If you've got sloping shoulders, you can pull them down. Let me see if I can, I can bring his shoulders up and make him look more square or broader. You know, I've really done some terrible things now to George, but you know, you can narrow the nose, you can drop down. If you're going to do this, and people have done it, professional photographers do it, you want to make sure that the background, like this background's perfect because it's ill-defined. If he was posed in front of a brick wall, I could not do that because you would see the bricks, the mortar lines in the bricks would start to move and wave, and that's a dead giveaway. So if you're going to morph yourself, you need to do it, you know, with foliage in the background, not buildings, not bricks, not anything with lines, because that's the first thing you see. You see girls on Facebook where they go, how do I look in my bathing suit? And you see the curtain in the window like caving in towards the body because they've worked it, but they didn't have to do it right. But if you wanted to, you know, change a crooked nose or lopsided, or you wanted to just make your cheekbones just a little bit thinner, you could go ahead and do this. And we're not going to do that to poor George, but watch the transformation back to his original photograph now. And there it is. So that's just a really cool thing. You can then, when you're finished with what you've done, you can import it and send it to your camera roll or your... So this is a way to take 5 pounds off your thighs and enhance certain aspects if you wished. So just wanted to show you that because I thought it was really cool. And lastly, real quick with a couple examples is waterlog. We'll go to a photo library. I'm going to find a parrot I took last year. Oh, I could try. And it will begin to change right before your eyes. So imagine if you have fruit and flowers or you have a garden center. You could take pictures of your garden center, take pictures, print these out, put them in frames and sell them and initial them. Print it on watercolor paper. They're suggesting that with the texture, but I just think it's really cool. So it doesn't work with every photograph, doesn't work with people very much. Here's one of their examples. So here's an example of it going into watercolor. Architecture works. Of course, they give you an example that would really work well, but here's the Brooklyn Bridge as a watercolor. And I don't know about you, but I'd hang that up. I would totally hang that up, hang that on a wall and frame it and pass it off as a watercolor. So you can do that with waterlog. It does cost, it's under $5, probably about $2 or $3.99, something like that. So I thought that was really neat. The other nice app that you might want to take a look at is Tangled FX, particularly if you've done pictures. Now here's their sample image. If you have an animal, now that's kind of wacko. Let's take a look at what it looks like with swirls. And you can see what it's done. It adds brush strokes, so it accentuates the edges of an image. Small details is nice. That adds texture with hairs. I did it with we'll try this bowl of fruit. So it kind of like it just kind of made it pop, makes it look a little unusual looking. You can make black and white etching. So that could be a logo. That's how you could do something cool with brush strokes. There's brush strokes. Isn't that neat? So you can do some really cool things with that. I like it for my, well, here's a hydrangea. I haven't tried this one. So there's a hydrangea. So there's the original. There it is. They add some fibers. That's a lot of fibers. So very sinewy, very biological looking, I think. Here's smooth fibers, but it's a cool, here's swirls. Brush strokes can make things look very Vincent van Gogh-ish. Here is small details, which is one of the ones I like. Just puts an edge in. It particularly, look at the veining, the venation on that. So it looks really cool. Insects, it's super neat with insects because it takes all their antenna and everything. I don't think I have a picture of I used to have a picture of a fly. Here's an insect. We'll see what it does with these. There's milkweed bugs. So that's it. Lots of cool apps all over the place. The ones, again, I recommend would be Snapseed, Waterlog, small cost. I've downloaded some, try them, play around with them. Others I keep, some I don't. The Tangled FX I like for certain things. And Photoshop FX if you're doing portraits, if you want to correct the flaw, you want to instantly lose 10 pounds for and you have to deliver a headshot, you 10 pounds, you could play around and tuck that away. I'm not going to get into the ethics of it. I'm just saying you can do it. So with that, I will go back to my contact information. I wish I had done this live because I think it would have been a lot of fun for you to ask me questions, but please feel free to contact me. I'm on Twitter. I also created a photography blog, and I recommend that you do that. Take a look at it. I have agriculture. I have different things. Photography. I spelled photography wrong. There's no E. It's photograph. So disregard that E. WordPress.com. And yeah, that's no. But I did it just because I could. It's free, and then it gives me a place to put my portfolio in. So with that, thank you for joining and for being the guinea pigs with this new experimentation and technology. I appreciate it. All right, bye-bye.